podcast is not for kids. It's a podcast where four friends get together and try to amaze each other with facts about the world or how we found out those facts about the world enough that somebody else in the podcast will say,
Holy fucking science!
Hello, I'm Hank Green, and this is Holy Fucking Science. We are going to talk today about hibernation facts of various sorts. Mine's peripherally related, but I'm also joined here by Stefan Chin.
Hi, mine is pretty related.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Sam Schultz.
Hi, mine's deeply about hibernation.
he's basically asleep.
I am. It's true.
And Ceri Riley.
Hello. Mine's also about hibernation, but I had a second fact.
Oh, there's a lot of good ones.
Yeah.
I started diving in. I was like, dang, a ton I didn't know about not just hibernation, but all the different ways that animals spend time checked out from reality.
Mm-hmm.
I get yelled at by Jesse a lot from Animal Wonders for assuming that things are hibernating when they're not really hibernating.
They're just sleeping.
Yeah.
It's just
I guess
nighttime.
So. Yeah. Yeah.
I hibernate every single night.
Yeah. Oh, I hibernated
apparently
really
bears
badly
don't
last night.
hibernate.
That's the one that gets me a
Yeah.
lot. Yeah.
They have torpor, which is different.
Yeah.
But there's a whole bunch of animal dormancy things. But in any case,
Is it different?
Yeah.
I thought achieving torpor was
No, it's
the
different.
the
It's
goal
a
of
physiologically
hibernation.
different thing. And there's different, and like reptiles have different kinds of hibernation, and there's also hibernation for when it gets like too hot and dry,
Yeah,
which
I
is
know about
different
that one.
from when it gets cold. But in any case, we're going to go in order of who was asleep most recently.
Almost recently.
Yeah.
Oh.
Oh, shit.
Did anybody sleep at work?
Why you always get me every time?
When were you asleep?
Well, I don't wake up until like 10 after 8 usually.
Oh,
That's not
I
bad.
wake up later than that
I'm a
every
sleepy
day.
boy. Really?
Like 8:30.
I set my alarm for 6:30 and I wake up at 8.
Oh, that's the worst. I hate people like you.
I'm really trying not
Don't
to.
do it. Just set your alarm for 8.
But I want to wake up at
No.
6:30.
No.
Why?
Exist as the person you are.
Uh,
Stop trying to be someone you aren't.
It's not working out for me so good.
Well, Catherine had a roommate in college who set her alarm for 6 o'clock every morning and hit the snooze button for like an hour and a half every morning.
Uh-oh,
And if
that
that
was
had
me.
been my room, there would have been blood.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I am that person, but I've never had a roommate within my room. So if I
yes.
did, I would probably act
As
differently.
long as it's just you.
Yeah.
I don't think it's good. I don't
You're trying to build new habits.
Well, but you're not, because you're not waking up. You like we all do it, and then you're just having an hour and a half of bad sleep. That's not what you need. You need to sleep for the amount of time you're supposed to sleep for. Just sleep. It's okay to miss 2 hours of the day in order to have a better
Some of us have to
experience
be in the
morning.
office at night.
Well, yeah, but he doesn't. He does, but he doesn't.
I don't have to?
Yeah.
Okay.
You don't have to be up at 6 o'clock to get to the office by 9.
But I want to draw before I go to work, and I never do. But I want to.
Yeah.
I have
He
a
wants to
comic
be
I'm
that
supposed to
person.
do.
Yeah.
And I never have time after work because you have to cook dinner, which sucks. I hate cooking dinner,
Ooh.
but I have to do it.
You could get Uber Eats McDonald's now.
Rachel wouldn't like that. I wouldn't be allowed to get Uber Eats.
There was a moment in your eyes where you were like, "Why am I not doing that?"
In a different timeline, I would be eating Uber Eats McDonald's a lot more, but not the one that we exist in.
Yeah.
But so I probably woke up at 7:50 actually.
Okay. 7:50.
8:30.
Okay.
7:30.
So
I feel way
and
less
then
bad.
5
now.
o'clock in the morning because I have a baby.
Yeah.
He's just not sleeping as long as he used to. Ugh. So I slept least recently, and then it was Stefan, Sam, Ceri, me. So Stefan
What does
goes
that
first.
mean? Okay.
Stefan
sure.
goes first. Everybody,
Stefan
Stefan
goes
goes first. Stefan goes first. Stefan goes first. You're cute. All right. What do you got for us? Hibernation.
So right after I said that mine was like directly related, I was like, well, maybe it's only kind of related, but like it's close. So it's like suspended animation, which is like a sci-fi thing that people say. But there's
like a human thing.
Hypersleep.
hyper sleep. So the thing, well, I don't know if it's too early, but the person who is like behind this said that, like, specifically mentioned this is not a way to get to Mars.
Okay. Is
and-
it a way for me to just sleep for a long time so I don't have to like
No,
deal with the
no.
news?
No.
Okay.
You don't want this to be done to you. It means
Okay.
that you're in a bad situation.
I see.
So it's essentially like using extreme cold to buy physicians time to fix all of the structural issues in your body.
Mm-hmm.
So not in this case, I think there are people looking into like using cold to deal with cancer and stuff like that, but this is like specifically severe knife or gunshot wound trauma, and you've lost 50% of your blood or more, and basically you're going to die. There are no other alternatives, and so then this team comes in and they put a catheter into your aorta and pump you. They drain out all the blood and pump you full of cold saline.
Wait, they pump
What?
your arteries full of cold saline?
Yeah, they take all the blood out and they fill you with cold saline, and it takes you down to 10 degrees Celsius. So your body temperature is 50 degrees Fahrenheit.
That's ridiculous.
And so I didn't realize this because, so part of this, I looked up like what the definition for hypothermia is, and that sets in at 95 degrees Fahrenheit. So going down to 50 is like ridiculous, even though like
I'm worried about your brain a lot at this point.
yeah, but so that's cold enough that the metabolism slows down enough that the last few breaths of oxygen are enough to sustain you for a couple hours.
Oh.
And so that they can do all this work.
Because you're not going to bleed a bunch at least.
Right.
So they're patching up your wherever you got all sliced up.
Yeah.
And then they just start
saline
filling
out.
Where
Yeah,
do
and then the
they,
saline starts leaking and you're like, well, that's not a big deal.
where do
Yeah.
they do this?
In the hospital.
In the hospital.
Like all of them, or
no.
just some places?
So well, I'll get there.
Okay.
So the rest of the procedure is like, so they fix all your wounds and then slowly warm you up by replacing the saline with blood. And then at a certain point, the heart just starts working again. And then
You hope, at least.
No, it does. Like,
Well, I don't know if every time. Like 1,000 times. You do this 1,000
well,
times. I bet there's
I mean,
one
sure,
where the heart
1,000
doesn't start
times.
back up again.
it usually happens or with a light jolt.
Just like
A light jump start.
just hold it.
It's
like
going
a
again.
9-volt battery. Bink.
But so I'll get into the history a little bit, I guess. So the father of CPR his name is Peter Safar or Safer. I don't know. I like Safar.
Did you call it CPR? Because that's another thing.
Yes. So this is
Oh, so
yes,
the father of
CPR.
Oh, okay.
And
He's
a
leaving
U.S.
us
Army
a tale.
surgeon.
We've changed topics.
No.
We're talking about.
This is going back to the roots.
Okay.
This is the guy who came up with CPR. Anyways, they were looking at a study of Vietnam War combat casualties. And based on what they saw in that study, they thought that they could have a big impact on survivability of like severe trauma if they could slow down the biological clock, quote unquote. And so they actually had military funding to study this. And so that was kind of the initial research in the 80s. And then the main guy, I think this is the main guy now, Sam Tischerman, was working with Safar or Safer. I will never say his name again.
Call him Peter.
Yeah.
Peter. So in the 90s, there were two other researchers who were taking this treatment and testing it out on pigs. And this is where they refined it and got it to be pretty solid. And so they got to the point where a 100% fatal injury had a 90 to 95% survival rate
Whoa.
in the
Okay.
pigs.
I mean, oh man.
What kind of fatal injury?
They're just stabbing pigs
They simulated multiple gunshot wounds.
by shooting a
They
pig.
didn't shoot them.
Okay.
I don't know.
Just
They
poked holes.
It just says they induced massive hemorrhaging.
Oh man.
So not great.
Are you sure they didn't shoot him?
Well, they said they simulated or
They
mimicked
punched
multiple gunshot
All right.
wounds.
I do want to know
but
what
after-
they did, but it's okay. They just
Apparently
had a-
there's video footage, which I'm
No,
not
I don't want
interested
to
in.
watch it. I just want to know.
But they had like
Spears.
they did memory tests or like they did some kind of test to implant like memories in the pigs beforehand, and then
See if
after
they're-
the trial they seemed unaffected cognitively. So
Okay.
I don't know. So that's the pigs.
Cognitively unaffected pigs is
Yeah.
always good for.
So yes, always good in general, I think. By 2002, they thought they were ready for human trials, but it took 12 years to get approved, basically.
Okay.
And the guy, the father of CPR, actually died in 2003, so he is not
Wasn't like
involved
gunshots or
anymore.
something.
No, he was 79. He was just old.
Okay.
I assume. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what he's up to. But the trial, which is still in progress, but they have to, like, the patients, they basically have a team on call at this hospital, and they're waiting for a patient to come in who meets all the criteria. And they will have to have suffered cardiac arrest after traumatic injury, have not responded to attempts to start the heart, has lost 50% of their blood, their chest will already be open.
Oh.
And they said that they usually see one case like this each month. And this is in Philadelphia.
What does their chest will already be open mean?
It's because that's part of them trying to get the heart going again. Like
okay.
Defibrillation didn't work. They opened the chest
there's a
cavity. They're like
previous thing.
manually
Massaging the heart.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
palpating the heart. And in those situations,
Not pulpating. Don't pulpate the heart.
palpating is correct,
Pupate
right?
the heart.
Pupating the heart.
Yeah.
That sounds scary.
Don't turn into a butterfly and then fly away.
Oh man! And in those situations, the chance of survival is normally less than 7%. But so they were waiting to get like 10 patients that they could do this on, and then they were going to compare that to 10 people who didn't get it because they were unavailable or whatever. And then the plan is to refine the technique and then do it on another 10, so they could see. But I thought this was just interesting that the FDA considers the trial to be exempt from informed consent.
Sure.
Because of the
Well,
nature,
they're
it's an emergency
unconscious,
situation.
yeah.
There's no alternatives, but they still had to go, like they basically had to go to like the mall and like different public places and hand out leaflets and like talk to people in the public as part of like community consultation to make sure that this was okay with the community.
Right.
And
Like
they had
the average person says, yes, if I get shot in the chest a bunch, I do want you to
Yeah.
pump me full of 50-degree saline and
10 degrees. Oh, I guess Fahrenheit.
Fahrenheit.
Sorry. Yes.
I'm American.
Yes. Excuse me.
So is this is a thing? Has there been a trial? Is it good? Has it worked? Has it been done to
So,
people? Is there?
let me
do
pick
I
up-
have to get shot in
Let
Philadelphia?
me pick up where I left off.
Okay.
Because they also had to do they had to take out an ad in the newspaper,
Oh my God.
which is like a thing. There's other situations where people have to do that too, right?
Well,
Yeah, like when you're
like,
getting
take an
divorced
ad-
or something.
yeah. There's just
You
like
have
a
to make
like
an
a
announcement in the
public
newspaper.
Yeah.
information section of the
It just
paper.
seems like a weird.
They took out like a
outdated-
classified that said we might
Yeah.
pump your heart full of
Yeah,
cold
basically.
stew. Yeah.
And so then there's an online thing where you can opt out, but no one has. So, I don't know.
Did you opt out when you
No,
read
I
about
should
this?
totally go. I mean,
Go-
it's
If
only
you ever
in
go
this
to
one
Philly and get
hospital,
shot in the
so-
chest a bunch of times.
So it's not in Philadelphia anymore because they couldn't. They didn't get enough people.
There weren't enough
So
not violent
holy
enough.
people.
So they moved to Baltimore, where there's a
Aw.
lot more, which is like it's like
Yeah.
a sad
yeah.
thing, but that's where they're gonna get enough patients potentially. What was your question? That
But
was a
has
good
it been
question.
done? Is it a thing that's
No,
happened?
so this was in 2016 that they moved.
Okay.
Or they had moved by that point, and they are still. It's ongoing, and they said that they'll probably have results in the next 2 years. But it like as far as I mean, maybe it's been done, but that they haven't reported on that yet.
So I will say that this is not hibernation.
No.
So it is peripherally related, unlike what you
Sure,
said at the beginning of the
yes,
episode.
It's true. It is less related. Now that I've
It's
presented
kind of like when
it,
those frogs freeze themselves at the bottom of
Yeah.
a lake bed or something.
So when I was reading about hibernation, I found a weird fact that once upon a time, in like the 1800s, they thought that French peasants hibernated.
yeah, I think I saw that one.
Disappeared.
Yeah. So like they work real hard. They're all around. They're everywhere in the summertime. And then like the nobility goes out to like collect taxes or whatever, and they're like, "Where is everybody?" They're just not around. And then they like would go into their houses and be like, "They're just like sleeping with the pigs and stuff." And apparently, to some extent, they didn't hibernate, but they did conserve calories.
Yeah.
Like there's no food.
Yeah.
We're French peasants in the 1800s. We're eating sawdust bread. It's a bad situation. People die. And so it's cold. They like go and they sleep with their farm animals, and like they sleep for the majority of the day to conserve calories. Like, and they're not eating a lot of food, and that makes you very sleepy. It turns out that's one of the side
And
effects of
rich
not
people
eating
are
food.
completely incapable of empathy.
Yeah, they can't understand. It's
They're
like,
like the other species, the peasantry.
Yeah. Why don't you stand in front of your blazing hearth?
Yeah, I work all winter long. Why don't you? Let them eat cake.
I mean, the Department of Defense would like to use this more in like combat situations, but also potentially helpful in civilian hospitals. On one of the articles, there was a comment from a couple ICU nurses who say that they do sometimes in cardiac arrest, or when they have cardiac arrest patients, they sometimes induce hypothermia in a similar way, but they don't take them below 32 degrees Celsius. So this is much
How much is that Fahrenheit?
89 degrees.
Okay. So still
it's
way
like still-
colder than
that's
hypothermia cold.
Yeah.
50 degrees is crazy.
Yeah.
Like I can't believe a person could come back from that. That's nuts.
Well, they,
Holy fucking science.
Does it mess their heart up, or
basically dead.
like?
I think it must mess their brain up.
Yeah.
Like
That's the
none
thing,
of the
though,
none of the
is-
proteins work at that temperature. They could denature. They could do all kind. Yeah.
Stefan disagrees.
yeah, I'm really
with you.
curious to see because the pigs were fine. It
Well,
seemed
I
like.
mean, they could remember
can't talk-
something.
you can't really
I'm not
talk
saying
to
that the
it.
people will remember nothing, but like brains are
Yeah,
complicated.
I'm curious to see what will happen.
They'll remember everything. They'll come out of stasis and they'll be like, I remember it all. I remember before I was born. I remember the 1800s when I was a French peasant eating sawdust bread.
It was so cold.
It was so cold. That's all I remember. I can only remember the times when I was very cold.
Whoa.
Oh, that'd be weird.
That's a good
It's
book
like
too.
every winter in Missoula.
that'll be the new like fad treatment. People injecting saline into themselves and like I remember everything. It'll be a cult.
Yeah. Suck all their blood out.
Yep.
That's a regular Black Mirror situation. I thought you were going to talk about how Walt Disney got his head cut off and frozen.
Did he actually do that? Is that a lie?
I've heard that it's true, but
Sam heard.
I have sources.
wait a minute. But the facility he was in lost power, and all the people who were frozen thawed out and died and like
That's
And
a
died.
gross
Back to life.
facility.
gooped. Yeah. Can I go now?
Oh my god.
Okay, mine's kind of short but sweet. So
Okay, good. Because we started late.
rude. Maybe you should cede your time.
You said!
So in Europe, and probably other places too, there is a species of rodent called the Dormouse, where they're little mouse-like dudes that aren't quite mice, but basically look like them. And there's one specific one called the edible or fat dormouse. That is their species name, the edible dormouse. And so,
Is the common name the fat dormouse?
the common name is the edible
Yeah, yeah.
dormouse.
And
Or the fat dormouse, but edible is more common.
Okay.
They call and do people when they call them an edible dormouse, do they know what they are saying?
I'll explain that in a minute. So, there's a reason that they're called that, and it's pretty cool. They are already known to hibernate for really long amounts of time, up to 8 months, but in 2015, some researchers found some edible dormice who were dormant for 11.4 months out of the year. So they will wake up and they will make a decision in that 0.6 months if there's enough food or not to keep going for that season. Then they'll go back to sleep and they can sleep for up to 11.4 months. So they just won't breed or anything. They'll skip like all their normal stuff. If there's not enough beech nuts, that's what they eat. They eat beech nuts. So if they can't find enough beech nuts, they go back to bed. And a regular dormouse lives 5 years, but an edible dormouse lives 12 years. And that's what scientists are trying to figure out why that is. And they think it's because just when you hibernate, there's some kind of like supercellular regeneration that happens.
Also, they're just living less. Like
Yeah.
they live longer, but they live less.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
if a human slept 11.4 months of the year, would they
But that's
die?
not sleep. It's different from sleep.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
I think probably
Maybe.
their heart rate probably goes way down. They burn less stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
that's
true.
like the
Their cells regenerate.
I don't think they regenerate.
That's what it says. In the
I
cells-
think talk about something similar too. I think it's like I don't know. I think there might be cellular regeneration, but there's also some breakdown happening too, probably.
Oh, I don't know. All this paper said was that they thought that there was some kind of heightened cellular regeneration, giving them like comparatively
So like
double
super
life
mice.
to other mice, more than double life. So that's all of my fact. But they're called edible dormouse because ancient Romans raised them as snacks. And they would, and people still eat them today in certain countries, but they would roast them on a spit and dip them in honey and eat them.
In honey. I was thinking, what would you dip them in? I was
Like a
like,
chicken
is it
nugget.
tempura?
What other choices did you have in ancient Rome, though?
It's true.
Honey.
Figs. They're
Yeah,
always
some
eating
kind of
figs.
paste, fig paste.
Fig paste.
Olive oil, you could dip them in olive oil, but you probably dipped them in that before you roasted them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then like brushed afterward. But I would just be like, heat up a whole bucket of olive oil and just like,
Oh, you deep fry them?
Well, I'm thinking like orange rat, like breaded with orange sauce.
Yeah.
We can order some of these bad boys up and
I mean, apparently they're nice and fat.
Yeah.
But they call them like, I feel like the word edible dormouse to me says we were eating these fairly recently.
People still eat them.
Okay.
Yeah. They still eat them. Yeah, you can do that or you can stuff them with stuffing. That's another way to eat them too.
Oh.
I guess they're probably pretty big. I don't really know.
I'm interested in sort of like, I don't know, in the practicality of like, how does it actually function? Do you just put the whole thing in, or is there like you eat off the bone? Is it like a sardine situation,
Oh, like
or
those
is
little
it
birds
like
that you chomp all the bones of?
yeah,
Probably you'd eat it off the bone.
I
That's
would.
my guess.
yeah.
Oh, but then, so 11.4 months, they think, is the record length of hibernation for any mammal, at least. But there was a captive bat that hibernated once for like 360 days. And that's the actual record hibernation length. But this is the wild animal hibernation record. I'm pretty sure.
I found a picture
Of a dish?
cooked mice.
I mean, they look
That
like
looks
chicken wings.
Yeah, they look like chicken wings. It looks like it would be difficult, like not an easy eat. You know, not like a chicken finger,
No, but I mean,
which is an easy eat.
Yeah.
it is
5 out of
very-
5.
It's Hank's.
Very easy.
Hank's
If I eat wings,
guaranteed
they're
easy
boneless
eat.
wings.
Yeah, right.
I want chicken strips. I don't want
Yeah.
to deal with
I don't
What's
wanna
the
bones.
deal
point
with
of
that.
eating a chicken wing? I don't really get it.
Point is that somebody's got to eat that stuff.
It's true.
Feed it to other chickens.
No, what? There's all.
Give it to a pig.
I mean, I like a chicken wing. I like a chicken wing. I like it. It's
Do you
just
like a
it's an
chicken wing or a chicken
experience.
strip better, though?
Different. I like them different. You know, sometimes I want wings, and sometimes I want strips. I mean, honestly, sometimes I would prefer a wing to a boneless wing. I think boneless wings are bullshit. I think that the phrase boneless wing is a lie. It's a fucking
yes.
chicken nugget.
It's a
It's a
little-
lot. It's a chicken nugget, and I love chicken
You're
nuggets.
describing the experience that I'm after. No bones and a wing-like experience where I take a small thing and dip it. And I guess that's a nugget
Yeah,
experience
chicken nugget.
too.
You
That
can eat
is a
bones.
nugget
We go to
experience.
Buffalo Wild Wings, and I'm not going to say, give me nuggets. You want to say, more wings, more wings.
No, I'm gonna walk into BWW and I'm gonna say, "Give me a vat of those greased up, sauced down nuggets."
And they'll say, do you mean the wings?
The
And I'll
boneless wing,
say,
sir?
"Leave, out, go, bring me a new server." I am. Do you know who I am? I want nuggets. You can't fool me. There was never a wing in that wing. It's fucking breast meat.
Is it really?
I don't know. It's probably not even
wow.
chicken.
Guess what?
What?
I like chicken wings with bones, too.
You just were lying.
They're fun to eat.
They're fun to eat. It's like a pistachio where
They're
there's
almost-
a process.
No,
They're
like,
all-
easier.
process.
The faster food can get from a plate
and if
into
you
my
and
mouth.
all your friends are eating chicken wings at the same time, it's such a good bonding experience because you're all so sloppy.
And then
You're
at the
probably
end,
at a
there's like this
bar.
big pile of bones.
Yeah, you can arrange
trash.
it. It's great.
Yeah.
To be fair, I prefer shelled pistachios too.
No.
Because it's easier. It hurts my fingers and my nails.
And sometimes
Yeah.
there's one that. Do you know the secret to getting a hard pistachio open?
Hammer.
Is a pistachio shell. You take the
Oh,
pistachio
sure.
shell and you
Wow.
wedge it in and twist it.
Yeah.
They're their own biggest
They're their
weakness.
own- Yeah. Just like me.
If Hank fought Hank, you'd both explode instantly on impact. Boom.
One Punch Man. No, just
One Punch Man?
I'm my own biggest weakness in general.
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
Me too.
Ceri!
I can't wake up before 8 o'clock, and I really want to.
Yeah, that's right.
You should just eat some edible dormice and steal their powers from them.
Yeah.
That
I could
won't help
sleep
me at
so
all.
much. You sleep
No.
11 months of the year.
I don't want that. That's the opposite of what I want. Why aren't any of you helping me with this problem?
But then you'll be able to wake up, look around. Is there art to do? No. Go back to sleep.
Is there art? There's always
There
art
always
to
is.
do.
It's the worst.
The whole thing of art.
Okay,
Yes.
ready? My turn. So part of hibernation, a lot of it happens during the wintertime when it goes below freezing and like everything's slowing down. Food is harder to find, and somehow these animals have to survive in the extreme cold. And a lot of animals do this by having molecules in their blood that help them out. So like there are a bunch of fish and frogs, like you were talking about, Sam, and maybe mammals with antifreeze-like proteins in their bodies, which basically like prevents water molecules from forming ice so that when they're in the freezing cold, they don't freeze.
So when a frog is frozen at the bottom of a lake,
Yep.
its guts aren't frozen?
Yep,
Okay.
they're just super cold. So it's like frozen around it, but there's no ice inside its body because if ice was formed inside your body, your cells would explode and you'd die.
Uh-oh.
No good. But there is one mammal, the Arctic ground squirrel, which is the only known endothermic mammal, which is like warm-blooded, and it maintains its own body temperature, to be able to tolerate below 0 degrees Celsius body temperatures.
What?
And
Can ectothermic animals tolerate below 0 Celsius?
I think it's like, I don't know,
I guess
frogs,
maybe during hibernation.
during hibernation, yeah. And the Arctic ground squirrel does this during hibernation.
Okay.
In August 1987 is when this was last measured, I think. They got as low as negative 2.9 degrees Celsius without freezing at all and like bouncing back and surviving.
Could they remember stuff?
I don't know. They didn't test
They
memory.
cognitively unaffected.
They didn't test that. They did test. There is a very interesting thing about their brains, though. So the first thing that's cool is that they can survive these low temperatures without any antifreeze proteins in their body at all. So that is like one of the main mechanisms we have found in animals to like keep their blood from freezing solid, but they don't have any trace of them whatsoever. And the only explanation, it's like very half-baked explanation. I don't think people have done a lot of tests on it, and they should, in my opinion, because I think this is really cool and weird. But for ice to form, you need a point of nucleation. So you need some sort of structure for the water molecules to glom onto and start forming that crystal. That's like how snow forms. There's dust in the air, and then the water or rain, and it gathers around it. And so because they can't flood their body with these antifreeze proteins, instead they just cleanse their bodies of anything that would be a nucleation site for ice. And we
Isn't
don't.
that like anything?
I guess that is what makes sense to my brain, but that is what this researcher says that they do.
Yeah, how big does a thing have to be to become a
Nucleation
nucleation?
point? I don't know.
I don't know.
What about their brain? Their brain don't freeze?
The brain don't freeze. But it does a very weird thing. It dies off and then comes back multiple times while it's hibernating.
Do they grow a new brain?
They like grow.
The brain dies off.
It like partially dies off. So like how trees lose leaves in winter and then regrow their leaves.
What?
This loses connections between brain cells and then regrows them.
I mean, that is potentially
hibernation.
a very cool, useful thing to understand.
Yeah.
Because that should not be a thing that things can do.
Right? I think so. Like the Arctic ground squirrel can do this, but it sounds like other species can too. Like there are 3, I think, Arctic, Siberian, and one other.
Deciduous brain
Squirrel. All
squirrels.
Yeah, several species of ground squirrels. But they noticed that, when ground squirrels hibernate, their neurons shrink and many connections shrivel up. So like especially the dendrites. So there's like in a a neuron. There's the cell body, which is like the main blob with the nucleus, and dendrites are where the receiving end of the signals happen, and then the axon's like the long, skinny part, and that propagates the signal out. So the dendrites especially, which are like the most branchy part, get pruned back. Then, like, throughout their hibernation, and these scientists, like, had them hibernating in enclosed spaces and then killed them, because that's what you have to do during various points of this. And so I think they killed it during hibernation, 2 hours after one of the intermittent brain arousal periods, and 1 day after emerging in hibernation. And both during the intermittent arousal periods and after emerging, the neurons were like branching out again. So it seems like what happens is it goes through cycles of like brain death and then intermittent periods of like brain growth and then brain death and then brain growth. And so like most of the time it's just conserving energy. And then when it's out of it, the connections are reforming again.
Oh, they
Is it
should
weird?
definitely check to see if these things can remember stuff.
Yeah, right?
Are the neurons dying, or is it just retracting the dendrites? Or those are different?
Yeah, I don't think that the brain cells don't die completely, but the synaptic connections between them do. So I guess my tree analogy was kind of off. It's like the parts that you'd think would hold memory
Right.
are the parts that are dying off.
Gotcha.
And so like the parts that you'd think would be essential for brain function are dying off and coming back.
Yeah.
But the cells themselves, I don't think are regrowing like
and this isn't
natively.
just memory. It's like the ability to like all of the things that the mouse has learned about movement and its territory and how to like lick things and yeah.
Yeah, and the way that they described it,
Did I say mouse is a squirrel?
it's a squirrel. The way that they described it is almost, or it sounded to me almost like brain development for the first time. So like after waking up in only 2 hours, the squirrel's brains had not only regrown the synapses, but overgrown them. And then a day later, the brains had pruned them back. So it's like relearning everything, or like regrowing all the brain that you need, and then tapering down those pathways to the essentials.
Maybe a squirrel's life is just that simple. You can just relearn it in a day.
Gotta get an acorn.
Yeah.
Beach
Gotta,
nuts around.
yeah. Dig a hole, climb a tree.
I am just a
That's it.
squirrel after all. Who's that squirrel? I don't remember. Let's meet. Hello, my name is I don't know.
That's beautiful. What if they were married previously?
Oh, it's
And
like
they don't.
50
They get to
first
fall in
dates
love every
except
time.
squirrels.
Yeah.
It's like, I really like you. We have a lot in common. It's because we've lived our whole lives together, but we have no
They
idea.
like pop out from their
Pixar, get on
burrows.
this
Oh,
shit.
but then one of the squirrels gets captured for studies. Not killed though. Not killed in this
not
version.
killed and done brain
And
studies
then it
on.
comes back, and its a significant other wakes up and can't remember it.
Oh, but it remembers because it didn't go to sleep.
It didn't go to sleep. It was too warm.
That would be very sad.
It's
Wow.
good plot, guys.
Good plot.
I'm very worried about
Where's
this
the happy
fictional
ending?
school. Sorry, squirrel.
You don't know what a squirrel
I had
is.
3/4 of a beer.
The part of your brain that knows what a squirrel is fell off.
Oh, now we're in Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind territory.
Yeah.
Somebody please scrub squirrels out of my brain. I don't want to remember them at all.
That would be a good prank.
I want to see a squirrel again for the first time.
Of all the things in the world you could choose, I want to walk up to that animal and be like, what's
What is
that?
Oh, man.
Have you guys seen this thing?
It's like a rat,
It's like
but
a rat with a fuzzy tail.
That's such a good prank. You can make people forget what like light bulbs were.
That's such a good prank. I like
It
that it's a
is.
prank. It's just like I've destroyed a part of your mind.
Yeah. You
If
forgot
every time
what you're
you
like.
went to sleep and woke up, you forgot one thing.
Yeah.
You have to, can I just like write it down right before I go to sleep?
No,
so
it
I
has
can
to be a
pick?
surprise.
Is it a surprise?
So
And
like
you just-
one day
my
you might
God.
forget Doritos exist and then like
And
get
just,
to
like-
relearn those.
I feel like if I
Another
forgot
one.
Doritos existed, I'd go to the convenience store and I'd be like, oh, There's another type of chips.
Yeah.
True.
I don't want that.
Yeah. It'd be like I'd
don't
make
want
you
any
forget,
kind of chips.
like your left hand existed.
I just want a hot dog, but it's not a hot dog. It's a hamburger, but it's in the shape of a hot dog, and you put it in a hot dog bun, and you eat it. It's like a hamburger, but it's in a hot dog bun. That's what I want from the gas
But
station.
it's a hamburger.
You guys know about this?
No.
Am I the only
You're
one?
the
who
only
eats
one
those
who eats
things?
gas station food.
I
for
love
some
gas
reason.
station
I used to
food
eat
so
gas
much.
station food a lot, but now I don't. I don't know.
Yeah,
I used to
it's
eat
just
corn
like
dogs.
it's one of the things on the rolly bars,
Yeah.
and it's hamburger,
But it's
That's
a
in the shape of a hot dog.
But you eat
So
it
it's
on a
ground
hot
beef.
dog bun.
and
Oh.
it's ground beef in the shape of a hot dog with cheese mixed in.
Does it have a
with
casing?
Nope. And then you just put it in, and you put ketchup and mustard and relish on it, and eat it like a hot dog.
Huh.
Super good. I don't know what they call them.
It's right
hot
between
burger.
disgusting and delicious sounding.
It's
Yeah.
yes, 100%. You when you're eating it, you're like, this is a mistake. I'm definitely making a mistake, but I like it.
Where's that? That food comes like out of a truck, right? Where's that coming from?
Well, all food
Most
comes
food
out of
comes
trucks,
out of
dude.
trucks.
But it comes out fully formed, the hot dog.
Yeah,
cheese.
I don't know.
Just like
I
a
don't
big
know where it
tube.
comes from.
Yeah.
I
Have to
should
cut it
go.
up.
We
They
should
don't know
figure
where
it
it comes
out.
from either.
We should track it down.
Yeah.
We should follow the trucks back and
Yeah.
like see where these weird hamburger hot dogs come from.
There's like a big spider who's just shooting this stuff out of its butt.
That is the thing that I would like to forget, if that's an option.
Oh, I have more to say about this, but that reminds me of the fact that I rejected.
Okay.
I told Sam and Stefan this already earlier because I'm very excited. Bears who don't hibernate form butt plugs over the winter
Wait.
so that they don't have poop leaking out.
Oh, bears who don't hibernate.
Bears, comma, who don't hibernate, but
Oh, bears.
in general,
And while they're in torpor.
while they're in torpor.
How do you form a butt plug?
So scientists used to think that they ate a bunch of grass and like their own fur and made this really like gnarly, hard to digest poop blob that would plug up their butt. But instead, it's something that happens in their intestines. Like something.
Ah, man, I thought
No.
this was going to go better and it was going to be something they made and then put up their own asses.
That's what this is why I didn't choose it as my fact because it was like less surprising.
You gotta wait for that Adam and Eve sponsorship.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Then we'll be ready.
people thought that they like shoved stuff up their butt. People thought that they ate specific things, but it turns out it's just something that their body does where they like eat their normal diet, but their intestines leach out a lot more water when they're about ready to hibernate, and then it just
And they
forms
make
this
like
plug.
a super like hard Duke.
Dense.
Yeah. Yeah, no, they just have a really gnarly first poop. And it's gross and
Yeah,
bad.
first poop after you come out of torpor.
That post-torpor
and you're just
poop.
like,
Wow. Have you had one of these?
yeah, it's
A
intense.
post-torpor
It's super intense.
Dense Duke?
Yeah, it would. But what if we lived in the alternate universe where bears shoved a plug up their own asses?
Yep.
And
They'd have to like. I don't even think they can see back behind themselves because their butts are so big. Probably.
well, no, they like
put it
they like
down
put it down on the
and
ground and they
sit
sit
on
on
it.
it.
Yeah.
Jump out of a tree
your
onto
way
it or something.
Onto like a pine cone or something.
Oh,
Like,
pine
Ceri.
gum.
You roll a pine cone around in
yeah,
honey.
in some
In honey.
No, hear me all the way out
then,
here.
yeah, and they dry it
Then
out.
you
Dry it
cover
out.
it in the grasses and stuff.
And maybe a little bit of olive oil
like a
from your
resin.
olive trees.
You make a
that
resin.
you have when you're a bear.
Yes.
And then you
Fancy
deep
bears.
fry it with a mouse.
Yeah.
let it cool.
And then the
my
Romans,
God.
the ancient Romans, eat it after you're done with it.
Totally, it's like a bezoar, but it's a bear butt plug.
Mm-hmm.
Is it my turn now?
Yeah. The only other thing I had to say about like the interesting brain thing is that people are looking into it for like Alzheimer's research and things like that. They think that the same protein might be somewhat involved, like the tau protein, which goes all dysfunctional in Alzheimer's, might be related to why these brain cells can regenerate so frequently. And like Alzheimer's might just be a form, like a dysfunctional form of that, whereas like in here it's working better than normal and is being used to like construct cell structure.
I guess I don't understand why it happens. Is it so cold that it does?
I think
It's
it's
a good question.
so cold that it needs to conserve resources. So like while it's in hibernation, everything lowers, like metabolism lowers and the energy it's producing lowers, and basically its inner organs shut down and it's not doing anything. It's virtually dead. And so this is a way for its brain to conserve energy but still stay alive. So it's just alive enough to survive, but you're not
Right.
spending a bunch more energy, like
Right.
keeping those connections active.
And then the more interesting thing is that it can grow back and then way more grow back and then trim itself back to where it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
Oh,
So it
okay.
like grows so much. So that's why like your cellular regeneration thing kind of makes sense. It's like if things die off, then it makes sense that they would overgrow to grow back.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I guess this is kind of similar where it's regenerating. That's it. That's the end of my science.
That's it.
We should all end by saying that's the end of my science. This is gonna be not just the story of the thing. It's gonna be the story of how I found the thing, and so it's slightly differently structured than the way that I usually do this. So first, I found this just a fact: rattlesnakes will hibernate in cold areas, like in northern America, like in New England. They will hibernate, and it's actually called brumation because it's slightly physiologically different from hibernation when for reptiles like this. And they'll come together into burrows, and they'll start rejecting food. They eat a bunch of food, and then like it gets cold enough, they start not being at all interested in food, and they will all head oftentimes toward the same burrow. And many times these are snakes that are like remember for some reason to go miles and miles and miles to this same location where they will hibernate together. And
In a big ball, right? Like-
yeah.
Okay.
And like so rattlesnakes, which are in North America kind of the worst possible snake outcome.
Animal outcome, sort of.
Potentially.
Yeah.
I don't know. They're like a grizzly or a mountain lion. I would prefer, if I'm gonna see it, I'm gonna be like, that's a rattlesnake, I should move away. Whereas if it's a like a mama grizzly bear, I'd be like, I'm gonna move away, and it's like, well, I will move toward you faster than you can run.
Okay, it's like the third worst animal.
So a bad animal outcome. Sometimes in these burrows there are over 1,000 snakes.
Oh.
Not only, though, are there over 1,000 snakes all curled up together, huddling, cold mass of cold snake flesh, but other animals will go down there too.
Oh, don't do it.
Because they'll be like, well, they're ruminating. They're not going to eat anything. They can't eat when they're this temperature. So there'll be like rodents down there, reptiles,
like taking a nap
turtles.
inside
Everybody,
the snakes.
everybody's going down there to hang with the snakes.
Wait a second.
Yeah.
Because so when I first think of this, I'm like, oh, it's like, you know, if a bunch of cave people like huddle together like for warmth, but obviously snakes.
Some warmth. So they're
they're-
warmer than they would be otherwise.
Okay.
But a mouse going down into that hole is not
like
necessarily
not-
getting a ton of warmth out of those
Yeah.
snakes, but not nothing, I guess.
They just
But
like
it may just be that like this is a convenient hole. These like they're called hibernacula, which is
Ooh.
amazing.
I love that.
Yeah. That's like
yeah.
there's probably a flyer or something going around, and they're like, "Come on down to the hibernacula for the cold snake party."
I mean, that's
We're gonna rave.
they're just partying with the snakes. It's
Yeah.
safer than hiding under a rock where someone's gonna look for you in a pile of snakes.
I was born in that there pile of snakes. So I was on the Wikipedia page for rattlesnakes, and I wanted to learn more about brumation. So I clicked on brumation, and then I see that there are a number of articles on animal dormancy, and there's torpor, hibernation. There's estivation, which is when it's like hot out, cryptobiosis, brumation, diapause, winter rest, critical thermal maximum, developmental biology, and then I see a thing called embryonic diapause, and I'm like, tell me more about that. Embryonic diapause is when an embryo hibernates.
Ooh.
Isn't that what it's doing already, basically?
Now, so an embryo, you make a baby. So that happens when you fuck.
Excuse me? Go back a little bit.
What? Okay. What do you need to know
No,
more
I was
about?
just joking.
I can tell you more about if you want. Yeah. So embryonic diapause. When you are an animal, oftentimes you want to have your baby at a specific time. And there are two ways to do this. One, you can get horny at a certain moment in time, and then you have whatever your gestation period is, and then you have a baby. Or you can use diapause, where you can fuck whenever, But then your body is like, okay, but that embryo is gonna hibernate inside of you, lay dormant until July 22nd, and then I made that date up, and then we're gonna time for the embryo to start developing again.
An internal sperm bank.
Yeah,
but it's already fertilized.
You just push pause on the baby.
You push pause on
Yeah.
the baby. Pause the baby, and there are two main types of diapause. There's facultative diapause, and that's when the baby gets paused until you stop lactating. So if you have a current crop of babies, you don't want to have another crop of babies. So you get knocked up, but you don't want to have the baby until your current babies are no longer babies. And then so your baby continues to just like pause there and wait until your babies are out and not lactating anymore. And then you're like, okay, let's go again. And then there's obligate diapause, which is more common and is in a bunch of things. Armadillos do this. Lots of pinnipeds, mustelids, which are like skunks and stuff.
What's a pinniped?
Pinniped, I know this. Seals and stuff. And bears also do this, where it's just like they're fertile a lot, but they don't want to have the baby until they want to have the baby. So it just like until the season is correct, gestation doesn't even begin.
So it is this. It's like there's the same time every year.
Yeah.
Okay.
Got it.
So
Yeah,
they can have sex whenever,
Yeah.
and they will have the baby at the same time. So their gestation period varies dramatically
Yeah.
depending on when they do it.
do we know how that happens? Is it like pollen in the air, or is it like
I think that it is.
temperature?
I think it's
something?
temperature. Like it's usually things like this are temperature and length of day.
Yeah.
So
Oh.
this matters a lot
Length
more
of
when
day,
it's
yeah.
cold out. So in areas where the day changes length a lot more, is areas where it's colder.
Do deer do this?
Deer were not in my list of things that do it.
Seems like they always have all their
And the
babies
things
at the
that
same
the
time.
things that do facultative, which is with the lactating, are more like rodents and marsupials. So smaller animals do that.
And marsupials only got that one pouch. They have to keep their pouch
That's right.
Yeah, keep it empty.
occupied.
I want pooping to be this way. You just eat whenever.
I wanna pause my
whatever, and then I pause it so that I wait till I get home or whenever. Whenever's a convenient time. I'm like, I got shit to do. I can't shit right now. Pause.
I got shit to do. I don't got a shit to
I
do.
can't shit because I got shit to do.
That's right. Hey, I feel you, man. But my body, I basically have this, except that it's not like a button I can push. It's the moment I open my email in my office. What? Why?
Wait.
I have
Causes you to poop?
Yes.
Yeah.
I have poop diapause, and it's not to do with anything I control except
Not
whether
wanting to
I've
do
gone,
work.
walked out to my office, opened my email, and my
then
colon's
suddenly-
like, now's a good time. And I'm like, thanks, buddy. I'll walk back into my house through the 2-degree weather.
You could just install a bathroom out there.
I could, but that would be very expensive.
Whoa, wait a minute. You have a different little
Yeah, I got
office
my
building?
Yeah, well, I got like a studio. It's like a garage.
Oh, cool.
Got my garage studio.
Okay.
Yeah.
Must be nice.
Doesn't have a toilet in it.
It doesn't? You should get a porta potty
Yeah.
Just put it in there with me.
inside.
Like
a,
Just a
Catherine
bunch of
would love.
blue water.
yeah,
Could I put it like in the yard at least?
a chamber pot.
Yeah, I'll just get a chamber pot.
Yeah.
Like I'm an 18th century French peasant. Why don't I just hibernate while I'm at
It
it?
would be good when it was cold out because you could just put it outside and it would freeze solid. And
Not be stinky.
yeah, well, until later.
We had that for emergency drills at school. There was a red bucket in the classroom, and that was supposed to be the poop bucket in case of emergency.
Huh.
At
Like-
MIT?
No, in like middle school.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, MIT students can hold their poop. It's one of the things they learn.
Yeah, I don't have to poop ever now. I learned that in school.
Whoa. You turn it into brain power.
Yeah, just funnel that shit back in my.
Or maybe you got like a butt plug you made out of bear shit.
Oh yeah, that's it. The baby thing is really cool though, and it seems like something that could be really affected by climate change. Kind of like how bird
Right.
eggs hatching
yeah.
can be affected by it. Like they're
Yeah.
gonna have babies random points. They're not gonna be ready to have their baby, and they're gonna be popping out.
Why did I have a baby?
Yeah.
It's frickin' June.
Yeah, January.
I don't know
Tomorrow?
what a weird time to have a baby.
I don't know
would
what
be.
it is either.
June seems okay, I guess.
June seems okay. It seems like there'd
June
be
is
food in
normal.
June.
Yeah.
February, not so much.
No.
It'd be like, my poor baby.
I
they're
had
just
I
out.
had an early baby.
Yeah.
Oh well. You can always have more. It's like the pigeons. Pigeons evolutionary baby making strategy is as many as possible. Some of these will work out. Hey, thanks guys for making a podcast with me. It's been a pleasure. Thanks to Big Sky Brewery for supplying us with beer. Big Sky Brewery is available all over in 36 different states. Beers like Scapegoat and Pygmy Owl and Slow Elk and Moose Drool. They're bottled and produced right here in Missoula, Montana, where we make podcasts and also things like SciShow and Crash Course. Thanks to Caitlin Hofmeister for hanging out behind the soundboard and the camera, making things happen. This podcast is available in video form on YouTube at youtube.com/holyfuckingscience. And it's available in podcast form for your ears wherever podcasts happen. This is Hank Green.
This is Stefan Chin.
This is Sam Schultz.
This is Ceri Riley.
And this has been
Holy fucking science.